All right?
Yeah.
Be careful, man. You're being recorded. What's up? Andrew Ginsberg, the Village Idiot comedy show at
Oh, wow.
Juke Bar.
It's happening?
Every Wednesday it's happening. We're live, dude. We're live, dude.
Nice,
We'll
man.
just get straight into it right here.
Wow.
Look at that. I cleaned your side of the table, bro, but like, look where I stopped. My bad.
I appreciate the water, man. It's like, this is legit.
Yeah, this is legit. We bring the water.
I brought this freaking can of pineapple
That
juice.
is amazing.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
see
pretty.
that.
I was like, I don't know if he's going to have water
Look at
readily
the
available.
Stats on that. So you're a big pineapple juice guy?
No, I just was feeling it because it's really nice out. And I was like, it's a good day to sip on some pineapple juice.
Nice. Do you ever drink pina coladas?
I used to. I don't drink anymore.
Oh, what? Any specific instance that you stopped drinking?
I'm just like a raging alcoholic or whatever, so I don't drink anymore. It's been like a year and 8 months, since I've had a drink. But I do miss like a pina colada. I used to like to sit on the beach, have a sip, be like Jimmy Buffett, eat a cheeseburger. So now I'm doing pineapple juice.
The thing is with pina coladas, though, and I want to get back to why you're not drinking. The thing with pina coladas, bro, like you have one of those, and that's just a full meal. Like that could be your dinner. What are we talking
pina colada?
about? 800 cows.
Thousands.
Freaking million grams of sugar.
4,000 grams of sugar.
A little protein there.
Yeah. When Jimmy Buffett sang songs like, I'm just going to sit on the beach all day and drink pina colada after pina colada, the caloric intake that he was describing, I think, is often
he might be fronting with
overlooked.
With drinking all those pina coladas. So why are you not drinking anymore?
Why am I not drinking anymore?
Reference?
I stopped drinking a while back because it was like ruining my life. Because I drank for like a decade. Like hardcore, multiple times a week partying.
Well, you're around the same age as me, right? 30?
I'm 33.
Okay. Well, around the same age.
Yeah, I guess that is in the range.
So it was, I guess, college you were drinking a lot?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to a college called Montclair State University in New Jersey. Okay. Yeah.
So that was
a very prestigious school.
That was a big like party time in your life, and you were drinking heavily 4 or 5 nights a week, something like that, or even.
Yeah, I would say most eras of my life were big party times, but college was, I guess, like everybody, that was the biggest. I guess in terms of duration, because in college I would drink like till like 7 a.m. all the time.
Oh wow!
You know what I mean? But I always partied a lot. I always partied hard, man. Yeah, you know what I mean?
In college. And I think, like, I got a lot of that maybe out of me in college, like probably the same thing you were talking. Or I mean, it continued after college for the most part for you. So, like, I remember there would be times when there was this thing called Nickel Night at UConn. And basically from the hours of, like, 6 to 7:30 p.m., you could get 4 drinks for $1.
Nice.
So when we were like 19 and 20 years old, underage, I used to play tennis on the tennis team at UConn. We would go from like 5:30, sprint back to our dorms, shower 5 minutes, and sprint down to the bar because that's like the only time you can get into the bar. Right when it started. That's when like the underage kids can drink. So we'd have like 15 drinks each, me and my buddies who were 19, 20, and then we'd be blacked out, shoes on, lights on, passed out in our beds by 8 p.m.
Sure, which I think is pretty typical of like the average college experience. You know what I mean? There's always like places like that. Like me and all the guys went to the bar and had 50% off night. And I did that stuff too in college. I think as I got into like my mid 20s and then eventually my 30s, that's when I was like, why am I the oldest guy here? Why am I still up? And why am I, and it was more negative than positive in the end.
Did you find that you were drinking a lot like during comedy shows and stuff like that? Or was it just like going out to the bar with your college and maybe high school friends?
Dude, it's funny that you say that because like I pretty much quit drinking like around the time the pandemic started.
Yeah, that's kind of the math I was thinking.
Yeah. And before that, like before the pandemic, my stand-up was all like my whole stage persona, because I was like 50, 60 pounds heavier than I am now. I had like a big giant beard. Yeah, I used to chain smoke. And so my whole stage persona was like, look at me, like I'm a mess. Like I got to drink. And so, I would say like, when I would do anything like some show or mics or anything, I was always like I wasn't always drinking, but it was a huge part of like who I was and my identity. And then since giving it up, I kind of had to like, I'm trying to rethink what I even talk. I'm still working on it. So it's like, Was it
tough to not drink during the pandemic, or kind of when did you stop drinking? Like, did you have to go to meetings or stuff like that? Or you kind of just stopped cold turkey?
So during the pandemic, so when it first happened, right? Like March 2020, I went to Keyport, New Jersey for 3 months. My buddy had an apartment there. He wasn't there.
Was that where your family was?
Nah, my family is from New Jersey, but that's not where they are. They live in like South Jersey somewhere. They're retired and old and stuff. But I grew up near Keyport, and I had a buddy who was on a business trip or something at the time that the pandemic started, and he was just gonna stay where he was at, which was Hawaii, and his apartment was open, so I went there to Keyport, New Jersey, and I was there for 3 months. And I didn't see a single person during that 3 months, pretty much, like a couple people here and there, but I was kind of isolated and alone. And during that time, I started flirting with I wasn't partying because I was alone. And when I did party, I was like, I'm just drinking by myself, I guess, on a Zoom call. You know what I mean? So I kind of flirted with the idea of stopping. Then when I went back to the city in June 2020, just went back into my old lifestyle right away. And then I was like over it. And by September, I didn't go to meetings. I actually used this is very corny and cheesy, I'm embarrassed to say, but it's all right. It helped me. There's this thing called 1 Year No Beer. It was this like online community of people that quit drinking that was more like not centered around God and stuff. It was more around like psychology and like behavioral adjustment. So I joined that. I started talking to a therapist. I did like actively work on not drinking each day especially in the beginning. I talked to other people that wanted to stop and stuff too. So yeah, I guess the answer to your question is yeah, it was kind of formalized like that. Yeah.
Well, was beer your drink of choice, or that's what just the group was called?
That's just what the group is called. That's funny. I don't know. It's I guess because it's like a British company.
Yeah, so that's good. But what was your drink of choice?
Beer. Yeah, so it was anyway. I mean, I drink. My whole thing was like I used to drink like 25 beers, and towards the end I was a wino.
Whoa. So like in a night you'd be drinking 25 beers?
Yeah, I was always pounding beers.
So I mean, I guess stopping drinking 25 beers, that in itself would just help you lose so much weight, right? Like not even going to the gym.
Yeah, at first I didn't go to the gym. I didn't do anything. I just stopped drinking and I lost like 20 pounds. That is true. And then once I started like just kind of losing weight just by existing, I was like, maybe I could like lose a little more, like get, maybe I could do something I've never been able to do before, like run. I didn't go for my first run until I was 31 or something like that.
And now are you running consistently?
Yeah, now I run like 5 to 10 miles every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
Andrew Ginsberg here on the right, by the way. Obviously, guys, as you know, I introduced him very well in the beginning of the episode, but I saw Andrew on the street when we were doing Ted Jones vlog, running around asking everybody what their body count was. This was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I saw you on the street with some Liquid Death water.
Yeah.
What was it, like a 12-pack of water?
It was actually like was it a 12-pack? Yeah, it was
something like that. Like you figure somebody who's carrying like a 12-pack of cans is like a full beer run, but no, man, just clean water.
Dude, that was so funny when I ran into you.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm carrying a 12 case of Liquid Death. That was the first time I'd ever bought a 12 case of Liquid Death. You know what I mean? It was like embarrassing. I just saw it. I was like, this will be a cool thing to have in the house.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know what I mean? Because like I said, I don't drink, so I'm always looking for things that look like beer. So when people come over, I can chill.
Yeah,
it's like a ritual type thing. And it was funny because like I ran into it. I was in a deep conversation with my friend about some serious topic on the phone, and I just look up and there's like cameras in my face and it's you, and I was like, oh, and I'm carrying the Liquid Death. Yes. I'm talking about philosophy with somebody I went to high school with, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? That was pretty cool.
So do you drink seltzers?
Yeah,
also
millions, dude. The funniest thing, I crush. I drink like if I go to like a party, or I'm chilling with my friends on the weekends or something after comedy in my apartment, I'll drink like 30, like I'll still drink like 25 Spindrifts or something like that.
I love it. So maybe it's the bubbles you really still like too, because I enjoy good bubbles like that also. Like I probably drink now once every 2 weeks, maybe. I'll drink like once a month, but I mean the most I'll drink is probably once every 2 weeks.
Right.
And then back, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, I remember I was drinking 3 or 4 nights a week. Like I used to work at my dad's company before I like started doing comedy full time.
Yeah.
And in the 6 years that I worked at my dad's company, there was probably a handful of times where I legitimately showed up hungover to work, and like people would notice how I looked, and like that's the worst fucking thing you could do. Showing up hungover to your dad's company. That's not something you want to do.
Oh, that's a bad look, because then you're like the dad's son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look what he thinks he could do.
I mean, it was like it was a double negative in that situation, and I think like over the past few years, weed has taken that place for me, instead of alcohol. So I smoke weed probably every day, where I was maybe drinking 4 or 5 nights a week. But the thing was, it was like the hangover that really got me. And it took me longer and longer the older that I got to kind of recover from drinking the night before. It would be like a 72-hour hangover, which I'm sure you realize in general. Was there like an alcohol that you drink that you'd be like, I cannot do this, the hangover is just too bad?
Yeah, but I mean, towards the end, it was all of them. That was the first thing, was like my hangovers. I remember specifically once I hit like 27, after my 27th birthday, I like no longer, I was always hungover. Like if I had like 3 beers, I was like really hungover. So it didn't matter if I drank like 3 beers or 20 beers or a glass of wine or 2 bottles of wine, I'm hungover. Like so hungover the next day, where I like couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? So that, your body starts to deteriorate. And when I got like a physical when I was like 30, I went to the doctor, And they were like, yeah, like your liver's all messed up. That's why your hangovers are so bad, because you're partying too much. So I can totally relate to that. And just a quick thing about going into a company hungover. It's funny, like when I was way younger, like early 20s, I worked for this book publisher when I was right out of college. And I worked with one of my buddies from home. And what we used to do was like, we'd go out for happy hour after work on like a Thursday, right? And then we'd like drink at the happy hour, and then the bar would close, but we didn't live. It was in Hoboken, New Jersey. We didn't live there. So we would be unable to get back into the suburbs where we lived. So we'd just grab a 30 case and drink outside the office building all night long. And, you know, and this was 2011, you know? So it's like, I used to wear like dress clothes and stuff.
Wait, so you drink the 30 outside the office after happy hour?
After happy hour.
Around, whatever. You drink that 30, and then what, you go home at 10, 11 p.m.?
No, that's the thing. So it is like midnight now, and now we're grabbing the 30 case to go.
Oh, so you go from happy hour to midnight.
Yeah, bar closes, get packaged goods to go. We're wearing like dress clothes because everybody still dressed like that back then for work. And then
like the tie's a little bit loose.
Yeah, exactly. It's like around your pants, you know what I mean? And we would then we go to in Hoboken. There's this really beautiful pier right in front of where the office was, and we would drink on the pier, me and my buddy Tom, all night long until the sun rose. So it's like 6 a.m. And then we'd switch clothes and then go back to work.
So there were some nights where you would just pull an all-nighter.
All the time. All the time. I mean, I was like 22, 23. Yeah, but yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
So you just had a body ready for drinking.
I was a machine. I feel like I was a machine.
A lot of us were like that at that age, where we could do stuff like that, where you just punish your body. And then they say, like, I mean, the 20s is a major time for you to freaking make or break your life, I guess they say. Do you find that alcohol in general helped you get into comedy? How did that start?
Dude, it's a good question. I don't think alcohol helped me with comedy really at all.
Some people would say, like, maybe when you get on stage, you'd be a little bit looser, whatever. You don't give as much of a shit, but it didn't help you.
I think it creates the illusion that it's helping you. Like, I think there was times I thought maybe I was killing when I wasn't, or that I had a set that was good when it wasn't. You know, like, I think that it kind of had like, it was like a false pretense, I think. Yeah, for sure. It helped me come over nerves and stuff like that, especially in the beginning. But I don't think it helped me get serious about comedy. Like, I don't really feel like I even started doing comedy until after I quit drinking. Like, because I'm still discovering my identity and like who I am on stage now. I really didn't know. But my relationship with comedy was like, I was really into comedy when I was a kid. Like when I was, I was like a theater kid. You know what I mean?
Hearing that. A lot of comics who come on the podcast just say that and just talk about how we all just love performing in general. And then there was some issue in life, and then now we're all getting over it. But continue.
Well, that's the long and short of it for sure. Because it's like I was a theater kid. I loved being on stage. I was in all the musicals, all that kind of stuff. I also love music, so I was like in bands and stuff when I was younger. So I was always into performing. But I was like early on. I was like back in the day, we're talking like 15 years ago, I was like an improv guy. Like like when I was like a teenager, I loved UCB and stuff.
Too. Do you take UCB classes?
I've taken all the UCB classes twice.
Amazing. Okay, so right as the pandemic hit, we're going back to, I guess, March 2020.
Yeah.
I was about to try, like that week, I was trying out for a Lloyd team.
Dude, me too.
And our 401 class, were you in 401 at that particular time?
I had wrapped it by that point.
Okay,
but
like at that particular time, we were supposed to have a class show, 401 show, like March 17th, that Saturday, and then March 15th or March 14th, everything shut down. So like I was right about to, do this class show, take comedy more seriously, start to do more stand-up.
Yep.
And then the pandemic hit, and then I found myself for the next year helping out my dad more so in his company,
Gotcha.
trying to get everything together. But it was such a time in everyone's life, I guess, where you were just like, what the fuck was I supposed to do now? So you took all these classes at UCB, and then you got the bug for stand-up comedy or just improv? How'd you transition?
Well, so I'm younger, right? Like I started doing improv. I worshipped improv when I was younger. And I took the first time I took UCB 100 through 400, I was like 20 or something, 21.
This is like summer in between college?
Yeah, it was like 2009 or 10 or something. It was a while ago. And at that, and then, I didn't make a house team at that time or nothing like that, but I had an indie team that I was on. You know how like you'd start your own team and then you do it at bars and stuff like that. And so we did that, and we had a pretty good show. Even when I was in college too, we had an improv show called Montclair Improv League and Friends MILF, and it was like pretty popular and stuff like that. So I was way into it. Then I'll skip over, but in my 20s, I just kind of forgot about everything and just became a corporate machine. And then I like yearned for more. So I came in 2018, I got back into, I started doing stand-up. So I started doing stand-up and do that. I was living out in San Francisco. I'm skipping over a lot of details of my life, but I started out there.
Corporate brought you out there?
Brought me out there. So I'm living out in San Francisco. I start doing open mics in like 2016. And then I'm like, this is what it's all about. Like I was loving doing stand-up. I was the worst you could ever possibly be. I'm not saying I'm even good now, but back then it was like truly pathetic. But I loved it. And so I started doing stand-up. Then I moved back to New York in 2018 to like pursue stand-up. I was like, I want to do this the most. And at that time I was like, well, what else can I do? Well, I'll take UCB again. You know, I already did it 10 years ago, but like, let me do it now that I'm 30. So I take UCB, I do 100 through 400 again. UCB is actually where I met Isaac, who's my partner in producing The Village Idiot. And then we were both like, dude, fuck improv. Like, let's just not do this. Let's focus on stand-up. And then around the pandemic time, like that's when I got really, really, really into stand-up.
Did you guys put a show together before the pandemic?
No, I didn't really know him. Like I met him in UCB Improv in like 2018 and then through 19, I think. And we were like friends. I used to have a podcast I don't do anymore. And he came on it. And we were like talking about our mutual comedy goals. And I encouraged Isaac, I like to say, if he's listening, I like to say to do stand-up for the first time. I was like, you should do stand-up. Stand-up's where it's at. After I got into stand-up, I like didn't care as much about improv and stuff like that. I just found it was like the art form I connected to the most. And not that I don't care about it, but it's just like, I'm just gonna spend all my time focusing on this. And Isaac, I took him to his first open mics. I think I'm saying this correctly, at Laughing Buddha back in like 2019 or something. Yeah. And then he fell in love. I always say I ruined his life because then he fell in love with stand-up and then that became all that he did. And then around the pandemic, we were hitting mics and then everything obviously disappeared. And then I spent a lot of that time when we first couldn't do anything writing jokes with my friend Dan Janine and Veronica Mosey used to teach a class, or I think still teaches it at the Comedy Cellar, and I used to do her workshops, and I was writing. And then me and Isaac just started hitting it. And that's when everything was still kind of closed, but there was all this underground comedy going on. And then that's when we started The Village Idiot. Like, we were like, I like to say that we were the first indoor show in New York City before the clubs reopened.
So now you guys have correct me if I'm wrong, man, the best bar show in Manhattan.
I appreciate that.
Right? I mean, wouldn't you say so with the lineups that you have, with the turnouts that you have?
We've been really blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it. That we've had good lineups because we built these great relationships early on when there was nowhere else to do stand up indoors. And we were doing it legally. The bars were allowed to be open, but the clubs were closed. So we
huge loophole.
That was like in the beginning. We were able to offer stage time, and were able to offer audiences because we had audiences that wanted to go out. So it's like if people didn't want to go out during that time also, but for some reason we were able to attract people that did want to come out.
When kind of was this though?
We started the first Village Idiot show was on March. It was like March 19th, 2021. It was like a year and a half ago. Yeah. And or
about a year after the pandemic, or into the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Right when we were like legally able to do so, we had our first show, and we were able to get good lineups because all the comics at that time still weren't really at clubs; they were just kind of sitting around. And we built all these relationships during that time, and it's just a good venue too because it's kind of like a comedy club. Would I say it's the best? I think what makes it the best is that what I'm the most proud of about the show is I think that it's a very punk rock show, and I mean that in the best way possible because I'm into that type of shit. Like, it's not always the best in terms of like the show. Like, if there's people talking, it can turn into a bar very quickly if the comedian loses control of the room. We put up with a lot of stuff in that bar, but yeah, overall, it's like I don't think there's another show like it. It's ruckus, man. It's
I actually went to my first Village Idiot show the other week, and it was crazy just to see like the comic really has to take control over the crowd.
Yeah,
I mean, you got the full bar on one side, you have some people kind of paying attention to the right of the column.
Yeah,
but what's the craziest thing that I guess has happened there? Being that it is a full bar, you must deal with drunk people.
Yeah, I mean, the craziest thing that happens is just simply that people get so drunk and then yell, it's like any show, like they yell or stand up and like walk towards the stage and like argue with the comedians. Like they don't realize sometimes that there's a difference between like the person standing there with the microphone and them because some people still treat it like a bar because the issue is we take 40 reservations every week. So if you want to have a seat and you have a reservation, you can come in and we cap it at 40. So people with tickets, they're guaranteed an actual seat, but we keep the bar section open for walk-ins. So the people at the bar oftentimes are just people at the bar. They're like, oh, there's a comedy show here tonight, And then they just still act like it's a bar and they can get nuts. So if we have to toss anybody, it's usually the people at the bar.
Well, how often does it happen that people are just making reservations and the whole bar is reservations?
Nah, the bar's never reservations.
Okay,
so people,
you guys just keep that part open.
the bar's open. You want to come chill at the bar, come chill at the bar. There's always space at the bar. If you have a ticket, you can sit in a seat. You know what I mean? So people just come chill at the bar, and then the bar can get a little nutty, and that's when it gets nutty, and that's when it gets disruptive. But I think the craziest stuff that happens at the show isn't really even like related to that, because there's been a fair amount of shows where it's a normal show. You know what I mean? Like where it's quiet and everybody's engaged, and it's not always punk rock and crazy. It just can get that way occasionally if things get too ruckus. But the craziest stuff that happens is more like I remember one night early on, we didn't know much about producing, and we had Mark Normand on the show, and he was like running super late, so he was like, I'll be there in 40 minutes. But back then I didn't think about like backup plans or how to manage that type of stuff because I was green. So we were like, all right, cool. Well, Brendan Sagalow's on stage, so let's just keep him on stage. Brendan was just up there for like 45 minutes, killing time for Mark Normand. And then that wound up being this great crowd work YouTube video that he has now that I think is one of his like highest viewed pieces of things on YouTube. And it was like the greatest thing ever. It was such a funny set. Brendan Sagalow's one of my favorite comedians. So
did he love that?
I think he loved it. Yeah. I don't know if he expressed his love, but I think he did. Yeah. It was 45 minutes, and he crushed the whole time. And so for us, like moments like that, and someone wrote in the comments on that YouTube video, like, I'm so glad Mark Normand didn't show up so we could see this. And I thought that was really funny because it's just like, that's the kind of weird stuff that happens at that show. We also have a musical element, so a lot of people like mess with we have like a guitar player. Just
talk a little bit about that, because when I was there was a piano player.
Oh, right. So Andrea Pranzatelli is our other we have two musicians. Andrea's like the other person that we call. She's fantastic and fabulous, and we love having her, but she's not our house person. Like we call her when Justin Garcia is our main guy.
He works with you directly or works at the bar?
No, he works with us directly. And Justin's also been one of my closest friends since high school, middle school. So I've known him my entire life. We used to be in bands together when we were kids, and then we like kind of rekindled our friendship during 2020. And so I had this idea when we started the show, like, let's just have Justin stand there with the guitar. And he basically like, he'll play before the show. He'll like he's a great musician. He'll play for like 20 minutes, and then the show will start, and then he'll just kind of be standing there, and he'll like play whatever comes to his head when the comedians walk out. So for when Isaac comes out, he'll always play something super Jewy. You know what I mean? Like he just had whatever they look like to him, he plays. But it's been fun to like a lot of comedians will mess with him. Like they'll ask him to play something. Like someone like Osama Sadiq will like ask him to play stuff and sing along. Josh Adam Myers, whenever he's on the show, like does like a full blown rock concert with Justin. Sure. But a lot of people just downright insult him. I'll never forget Jessica Kirsten came on stage and looked at him and was like, "You look like," what did she say? Like you're transitioning right now on stage in front of us, something like that. She says like everybody shits, so it's just a funny job for him. It's like, hey, you want to come here and do this job? And like he just basically stands there and gets shit on by people all night long. But it's super fun and he loves it.
Amazing. So. That's like at Ted Jones Comedy Show, we have a beatboxer, Dr. Brick, and he comes to almost every single show. And in between, like I'll be like, oh, Andrew Ginsberg, like. As soon as I say your name and like the 15 seconds that it takes you to walk on stage, he's going.
I love that.
Like all the comics, seriously, like almost every single comic, unless you see him like actually in the corner beatboxing, everyone's like, "Holy shit, you're actually doing that!" And so unfortunately, at the show that you're doing, May 10th, 7 p.m. at the Stand, correct?
Can't wait.
Ted Jones Comedy Show. It's going to be amazing. Dr. Brick actually won't be there. And then if you guys do want to check out the Village Idiot at the Juke Bar, I'm doing it May 11th. Correct?
May 11th. That's right, May 11th.
Amazing. And also, you guys check that out, or any other Wednesday throughout the rest of the year, right? You guys do it every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday for the rest of our lives.
That's great, man. So how much time do you do on the show, and then how much time does Isaac do, your partner? Or do you guys kind of come up together? How does that work?
Good question. I think it varies because it's like the purpose, I've always said this, is like the purpose of our show is that we do the show so that me and Isaac can get better at stand-up comedy. Like we produce the show. Obviously we do love doing the show. And like obviously there's other reasons why we do it, but like the main core crux of it is like for us to practice stand-up. So like it depends on what we're doing, like each of us creatively. Like if I'm like, hey, I think I'm gonna like do 20 tonight, like I'm gonna close. It's like because I'm working out these longer bits, or you know what I mean? Like
that happens. You guys do 20 sometimes?
I did 20 on Wednesday. I closed it, but I don't do it all the time. So that's what I mean. It varies. Like normally we do 7 minutes each, 8 minutes.
And I'm assuming it also depends like how many comics.
Sometimes things happen where like someone will it happens where like a bigger comic could come on. Like sometimes like I think like Ari walked on once and stuff like that, where they'll do like like longer amount of time, and then like that just changes things. But typically Isaac and I will run like 7 to 10 minutes each. We each we each go up every week, but depending on like what we're working on, I one of us might say like I'm going to close tonight, or I'm going to bite the bullet tonight, because like we want to give ourselves a harder spot. You know what I mean? So it just depends on where we're at creatively.
Most of the comics do about 10 minutes on your show.
Yeah, 7 to 10.
How long is the show usually?
Hour and a half. I rarely let it go over an hour and a half. That's part of it too. Is like if I feel like it's going to go over an hour and a half, I'll start shrinking everybody's sets or my set, or I'll eat my time. So like because I don't think the show should be longer than an hour and a half. But our specific show like gets nutty after an hour and a half. Like the people in the audience are, you know, they're at a crazy bar. So it's like there's only
how many people do you usually put on? Do you guys cap it, and then does Isaac pick a like 3 and you pick 3 or 4? How does that work?
No, every single person that we book is a mutual decision. Like we like debate it with ourselves. We
debate it with each other.
Yeah, sorry, can't speak. We debate with ourselves.
We debate with ourselves.
We debate with ourselves. Yeah, and each other. We debate with each other about everybody. No, we pick 5 comics. Plus us. We don't have proper hosts. Like we just host and then also come back out, which is also kind of a weird thing that we do. Like we just do we come out together up top.
Yeah.
Which is like whatever. Sometimes it's good. Most times it's not great, but like we do it. Sometimes
come together up top. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we come together up top. We do like a shticky like thing up top, and then we bring on the first comic. Sometimes we have guest hosts, but traditionally we have 5 comics plus us, and we always book a walk on every Wednesday. We decide like let's ask some random person to walk on. So we leave like space for someone to come on. Or drop in.
Nice, man. I'm very excited to do it.
Yeah, we can't wait to have you.
If you guys are free.
May 11th, 5/11.
You don't start exactly at 7:30 though, but we shouldn't let these guys know. You guys come to 7:30.
The show starts promptly at 7:30. No, it's like all comedy shows. Like it starts plus or minus a half hour after it's supposed to. It's like starts at 7:30. We usually start the music at 7:30, and then it starts around like 8, sort of. Yeah.
So where are you living now?
I live in the East Village, man. Greatest city in the city.
Greatest city in the city.
Yeah, greatest village in the city.
Are you living with anyone or just you?
No, I actually live alone, which is cool. I have like it's a modest but cool place, I think. I've been living there for a couple of years. I live over on St. Mark's, if anybody wants to stalk me.
Nice.
And I'm there. Yeah, I live out. It's been my dream to live where I live, actually, since I was a teenager. So
I know, dude. Eventually, I want to be in the East Village. That's where everything is. It's so central.
Yeah, I mean, you live in a pretty cool spot too.
Man, I appreciate that. Well, we got the studio and the apartment together. Just put these lights. Everything fits just perfectly for me. If I had anyone else living here.
Yeah.
Issue.
Well, that's what my apartment's like. Kind of. It's actually just like yours, where it's like I do all my streams or whatever I'm doing. Like it's very set up very similarly.
Yeah, dude. Talk a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah. All right. So I was always way into podcasting. All right. Let me say this. You might
start from the beginning.
I don't mean to be. I don't want to be controversial, but like when I was in college again, which was 100 years ago because I'm 33, I had a podcast. Podcast didn't really exist at that time, but I had a live format like show like this with me and my partner, this guy John, and we used a program called Ustream.tv at that time where you could go live, and it was like 2008 or 9.
Is there still a Ustream? There
is, but it's owned by a larger company, and it's not like what it used to be. It used to be like a live streaming platform back before anybody even cared about that stuff.
Like right around YouTube days too, right?
Right when YouTube was becoming a thing. We had it was called Sabada Hour, and me and my friend John would go on, and we would just read the news and like make fun of what was going on in the world and stuff like that. It was just like a way we used to talk about things. Like, yeah, so it's kind of like in Seinfeld where it's like yada yada yada. It's like, yeah, like we walked out of the bar and Sabada, this guy showed up and Sabada. We used to say that all the time, so it just became Sabada Hour. But we did that for a bit. And then when I moved to California, which was in 2014, I moved across the country. John stayed in New Jersey, and we started a podcast called Why That's Funny that we used to do remotely. Like we used to catch up on each other's lives and on the world and on the news. And I did that podcast for 4 years. It was moderately, I would say it was moderately popular. There was times when it was pretty well listened to over the years, for us at least, like what we thought.
Where would people listen to it though?
It was on like iTunes and Apple, and I think this is before Spotify even.
Well, because I'm kind of wondering how people would ingest podcasts back then. Like, would it be through their phone, or they'd like have to whip out their computer and go on the website?
I would say that this was the time, like 2015. I mean, that was when Apple Pod was the #1 podcast platform, and it was like 3% of what Apple cared about. Nobody, they could care less about it. But there was big podcasts in 2014. I mean, Mark Maron's podcast was number 1 on the charts. Joe Rogan was still around, number one and +2 on the charts, whatever. So like podcasting was the thing, but I think like Stitcher and Apple Podcasts and like even Pandora, I think like they were running the RSS feeds then, and it was, I think when Spotify came in, they wanted to be like the new player in podcasts, and they started expanding it. So there was podcasts around, and we would promote it exclusively through Twitter at that time. Like Twitter was more of a place where you would discover that kind of content. And we did that for years. Then that thing broke up. I'm getting to the podcast I do with Isaac now, and then I just was like, I broke up with John. The podcast stopped. And then I was lost. I did a single person show called Real People Podcast, which was just me during the pandemic, where I was just interviewing people, and which was cool. Like I had some great guests. Like I'm very proud of like the content that I created, but it just didn't feel right because it wasn't funny. The show was very serious. Because I was going through stuff. I was quitting drinking. I was having these like serious conversations with people about life, and it was cool for the time period, but it wasn't something I could see myself doing forever. Because
Were you doing video stuff back then?
Nah, no video stuff. It was always all audio, and now this thing I'm doing with Isaac is like, now we have this dream of doing like a late night live show. My personal dream for it is that like we go live on Twitch and we're talking and people call in, but my hope is that weirdos start to call in from all over the country. That's like what I want, to have like this weird show that's on late at night where it's like, the vibes are like mellow and there's lava lamps everywhere and we're talking about crazy stuff, and people like will just call in because they're up.
So a kind of like a less scripted version of a Crank Yankers, but Crank Yankers is like fake phone calls.
Yeah, but we're not
you
making.
Just want the crazy people.
I just want the crazy. They don't have to be crazy. I just want people to call in because they're like. I think when we first conceptualized it, the dream was that for me in my head was that like some truck driver would be driving down I-95 in the middle of the night, listening and calling in. So like we have the Twitch feed so you can watch the video element of it, but I'd like to have it like somewhere else. Like I said, it's very much in pilot phase. So now we go live every 2 Saturdays and we do it on Twitch. It's called Who's Up. You can follow us at Village Idiot Comedy on Twitch. And
what time, by the way?
11 p.m. on Saturday nights. Yeah, Who's Up with the Bergs. And we just kind of chat and people do call in, but right now it's like...
Oh, the Bergs. I love it. It's Isaac Gutenberg.
Gardenberg,
excuse me, and then your last name,
Ginsberg. Yeah, so we're the Ryan O'Toole. You know who he is?
I know the name.
Yeah, he's like he's not a Boston comic. I guess he's a New York comic, but he's a guy from Boston. He coined us the Bergs. So now we've always called ourselves the Bergs since Ryan told us that. But so we're just kind of getting this thing rolling. We haven't promoted it widely yet. We've been doing it since January as like a pop-up show, and people who call in are typically other comics because we're not promoting it like it's too much, but we're going to start soon, and that's like the new project. Where
are you guys recording it?
In my apartment. I have a very similar setup in my apartment to what you've got here. So
streaming everything.
Yeah, we just do it in my apartment.
You watch YouTube at all?
No. Should I?
Well, I was just curious as to how you kind of got into the idea of focusing on Twitch.
Oh,
I haven't heard that a lot, except for gamers really doing that.
Yep,
people who have like a massive presence, I guess, on a YouTube would switch it over to Twitch or something like that.
Yeah, Twitch is a massive, exclusively, I think, almost gaming platform right now. I don't play video games. I haven't played a video game since 1998. But like, the thing is, my biggest influence, I think, talk show wise, like radio wise, is Howard Stern, because I grew up with my dad blasting it in the house 24/7, and that's kind of where my heart is in terms of like, what can I do that's like funny and edgy and late night, and like I know that Howard Stern was a morning show, but like, the edginess of it, like the call in nature of it, the skits where you're calling in recurring characters, like that's what I've always wanted to do, and we chose Twitch because during the pandemic, like I used Twitch for things that weren't gaming. Like a lot of my favorite bands were doing concerts on Twitch. Like when you couldn't go to a concert on like a Saturday night, I would just watch a concert because there was nothing else to do. And I was like, to me, it's like a skate to where the puck is going type of thing. Like I have this weird belief, I don't know, like that in like 10 years, it'll be normal to just consume events on Twitch or to look for, like content that isn't video game related on Twitch, like have a show on Twitch that is like, you have this platform that's excellent for live streaming that you can easily set up and create your own show, like a TV style show if you want to, with the best bandwidth for sound output, and it's only used by video gamers. But like there's no reason why everybody else can't get on board. Like, I just think that that'll go there eventually.
I love that. We're just going to clip back to this like 5 years ago and you're going to post this on your page. It's going to be amazing. Have you thought about putting your comedy show on a Twitch type of situation?
Dude, yeah, we just don't.
Live streaming live shows?
We don't know what to do. It's that's a good. We have thought about that. We thought about like what can we be, like how can we merge the Village Idiot with the internet? Basically, like, we don't really do that in any way. Like there's no TikTok, there's no Reels, there's no like, and there's a lot of funny stuff that happens. Like, not that we'd want to put up stand up routines. Obviously, nobody would want us to do that.
That's also something that would be an issue, I would think.
Yeah, but me and Isaac's stuff we could, and especially our weird hosting bits or things that happen with Justin. Like, there's elements of this Justin the musician. Like, there's elements of the show that we could be like putting up. But no, I haven't thought about what to do with it exactly yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting balance, and I'm, very curious to see how people move forward with this new age of technology and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you mentioned the metaverse. Like, you've heard of like people doing like virtual spots. Like, there's like apparently there's virtual comedy clubs.
Yes, I was going to say like comedy clubs in the metaverse. I don't really know how that could work, but like, I mean, imagine we're just putting on our sets here. You and I host a show together in front of freaking 500 avatars. I mean, like, when we want to go pee, we just take off our headset, go pee.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be really cool, but I'm super interested to see how that happens.
It's hard to fathom, but I think it's happening. Like, the thing about I'm not like a big like metaverse guy. Just want to clear that. I'm not going to stand here and be like, dude, you got to get into this NFT. Like, I don't know anything about it. But what I will say is this. In 2015, I saw an advertisement for a virtual reality like tour of all the different sets that like Oculus, and this was in 2015. And I was like, I'm gonna go to this like lab, and you could try every virtual reality that existed at the time.
What do you mean? This is like you went to a building and they had
it was like an exhibit almost, and they had them all, but it was like interactive. Like, you could try every headset. They showed you how to use it. And it was just like, if you want to see what's going on with virtual reality, it was free. And it was in San Francisco somewhere. So there's a bunch of dorks out there, and they thought that stuff was cool, So I remember being floored in 2015. I haven't tried it since then, of how ridiculously accurate and like how real it felt to be in, like, I think I was in like a virtual simulation of a kitchen. So this one game was like, I was learning how to cook like an omelet or something. But I really was like, I'm bugging, man. Like, I'm there. You know what I mean? To me, if we're saying that like there's going to be a virtual comedy club, like I get how that would work. Like, I see it. I'm opposed to it sort of because it's unnatural and feels weird to download myself into the metaverse, but it could happen, man. Like, I know that there's people already doing it, and like, just from that experience of like how awesome VR is, like, it's possible.
I wonder when it's going to fully change though. Cause those big headsets,
they're expensive.
They're not like appetizing to me. And yes, of course, it's expensive.
The average person isn't going to have like a $2,000 setup to get into the VR. That's the problem. Is the barrier to entry with that stuff is like, it's not. You can't have a virtual comedy club if you need to buy tons of equipment to get in. You know what I mean? But I think over time, like everything, as technology evolves, it becomes cheaper because it becomes more widely produced.
Are you like a big Bitcoin or Ethereum advocate?
No. I'm not into that stuff. Not that I'm not into it. I'm not an advocate. I have a lack of caring of that kind of thing, just because I just don't care, like to occupy my brain using it, like thinking about it, because I don't care. That's all I would say. I'm not opposed to it though. I'm not like one of those people like, if you like that stuff, you're a jerk. Yeah. Like, and it's cool. I think it's cool. Like, I get it. Like blockchain, all that stuff. It's cool. I think thinking about the future is interesting. I just don't care, because like, if my brain was like a pie chart, I can only think about so many things. Totally right. If 70% of it's comedy, and then I got to spend some time thinking about, like, I don't know, spicy noodles. Like, I don't know what else. My cat. Yeah.
So talking about comedy taking up a large amount of time. Fuck, I just forgot the question. We're gonna edit this part. I was talking about how
I was telling you about the pie chart of my brain.
Yeah.
70% comedy, 10% spicy noodles.
The pie chart in my brain lost that one. How comfortable are you on stage in terms of how many minutes, if somebody were to put you up on there for stage, you talk about Sagalo doing 45 minutes, you doing 20 minutes the previous Wednesday. How much time do you think you're comfortable with on stage?
Dude, it's so weird, man. It's like I've successfully done 20-minute spots in the past. Like, I did a 20-minute spot on a show up in Newburgh that Paul Valdez Rodriguez put me on, And that was a hot show. I mean, that was a hot show. It was the night before Thanksgiving and stuff like that. I've done 20 on Village Idiot a zillion times, like if I close and stuff like that. I've never really done more than 20. I have enough material to do more than 20. I don't know if it'd be funny. But the thing is, I feel like where I'm at creatively with comedy is that things, like, first of all, I don't know if I've totally found my voice yet. So it's like I change what I'm doing a lot. Like I continue to like hate what I did like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. And I don't think I'm there yet. So it's like, I guess the answer to your question is like, I could do a bunch of time. I have a zillion I do a lot of storytelling and stuff. They're long stories. Like, you know, I could do a bunch of time and it might get laughs, but I'm not like satisfied with where I'm at. So I'm always like trying to think like, what am I supposed to be doing up here? I just don't know if I've hit that yet.
Well, since you're doing a spot once a week, I mean, at least at your show, how often do you think you're changing the material? Like how similar is the material from the Wednesday before to that Wednesday?
It depends on what happened. Like, it's like, here's a good case study of what can happen, right? So 2022 starts and I was off to a really good creatively, like I unblocked this year. I'm writing all the time and I'm like, oh man, I got all kinds of ideas and I have the Village Idiot, so I'm like able to try new stuff all the time. And I'm feeling good and I'm doing these spots, I'm doing shows and everything's going well. You know, I'm getting laughs. I'm not bombing at all for the first few months of the year. I had like many good spots. Then we did a show in Chicago. Isaac and I wanted to do a show on the road. So we did a Village Idiot show in Chicago at On Tour Brewing Company in Illinois. And great, hot show. Like we sold like a lot of tickets, like 80 plus tickets. We brought New York guys, Dan Janine, Nick Tallelli came with us. And then we had half Chicago comics. Jess Levin hosted it. It was an awesome night. I go up, and this is like coming off after weeks of hot shows. And I got into a place mentally where I was like, this is it. Like I'm finding it. It's working. I can do, oh, you want me to do a half hour? Like, you know, and I go up there and just bomb so bad. It was easily the worst bomb I've ever had in my whole comedy career, I think, so far. So I was like, and then then you're just humbled again. Like, it's just like back down to, like, I left there just being like, no, I don't know. I still.
What do you think was different though about that set and the hot sets that you had?
Well, that's great. That's what I mean. Like, what was different about it was like that. Like I said, I'm still uncovering like what I'm even trying to like. What am I trying to say? You know, like what are my premises? Like what am I trying to say about myself? So I think there, I just made some like. I had some issues up top, like technical issues. Something was wrong with the mic, and then I like got flustered by this, like some stuff like that. Then I just kind of like, I tried to do some crowd work, and like I just kind of like had like it was like weak, and then I just kind of like they just weren't bought into my stories, and a lot of what my jokes are stories. So what I was searching for, I listened back to the set about 10,000 times, and you can hear in the recordings like what I'm searching for is like a 1-2, like set up punch, like try to get people back on my side, but I don't have that. I'm missing a lot of that stuff because I just have all these long stories. So it's like, oh, you don't like this bit? Well, let me tell you another long story. And it's like, I'm like, dude, I gotta go back and write a type 5. And that was kind of like where I was at coming back from that. So like over the last couple months, I've been now writing shorter, like quick things that I can have to like blast people with laughter so that I can come back if that starts to happen again. And now I'm kind of coming back again. Like, but if that experience hadn't happened, I wouldn't have looked at my material that way. So it's like, that's what I mean by like, I don't know where I'm at. Like I'm still kind of uncovering things, you know what I mean? And it's all new to me because what worked for me in the past before I quit drinking and stuff was just like, yeah, you're fucked up, me too. Like, let's drink. But like, and that's fine, but that's not who I am. So now I'm like, now I'm not talking about that. Now that's not my personality. It's like, who am I? And the stuff that I'm writing, I'm happy with it, but it's still like, it's like opening up like a flower, I feel like. And I just, every time I go on stage, I learn something new about it. I don't know.
In comedy, are you looking to get to an hour, or what are you kind of looking to do right now?
That's a good question. I'd like to be able to have like a set, like a 15 to 20 minute set that I've memorized completely.
Yeah,
that
a lot. That's really
you know what I mean? That I do the same way every time. Like you asked the way you started this question, I didn't even answer it. Was like, you asked like, does it change week to week? Like, yeah, like right now I'll do, you know, if you know how it is, like you have a set and it works and it like kills harder than it ever killed. You're like, I'm going to do it like that every time, but then I'll do it like that again. And I'm like, well, it didn't go the same way. Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like there's still a lot of those variables in my set where I'm like, depending on the audience and how I'm feeling, I'm adding lines, I'm changing things, but like, I'd like to like go on stage and be like, here's 15 minutes of material. I just say the same every time and I know it's going to work and it's like, so I'd like to get there. I have a sense of that. And like, it's not like I do different jokes. Like I have that, but it's not to a science. I'd like to get there first.
Do you find that your show at Juke Bar is different than other comedy clubs just because the environment is, I don't want to say taxing. I mean, it's just so different
taxing
than any other place. So like, are you more conservative at Juke Bar than you are at a show that wouldn't be that loud and everybody's super focused at you? How do you kind of feel it's different? Like in doing your show and then coming to the stand, how do you see it being different? Yeah, no, it's a great question. Well, I think that the opportunity to do things at a crazy place like the Juke Bar makes me better when I get to go do something like at the stand. Like, because we, at the Juke Bar, we're often fighting the audience. Like every joke is your chance to win them over again. It's very hard to get rolling laughs, like to just be killing. Like it's very joke to joke very often. Like I'm getting a joke, I'm laughing. They don't like my next joke, they hate me. I got to get them back. Okay, I'm back, you know? And it's like people talking, there's issues and this and that. And like, you know when you go to like, I've say this sometimes where you go to like a hot show. Like, and sometimes our show is like this, but like not all the time, but I'm like probably at the stand, probably at a club. You know, if it's a Friday night show at a club and people bought tickets and they're ready to go out and they're excited and they're drinking and it's not Wednesday and they don't have work the next day. And it's like, you come on stage and you say the same dumb shit. Like sometimes I'll say the same dumb shit I always say and it's just murders. And I'm like, oh, there's a hot crowd. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that when I get to really enjoy that, like just getting up there and be like, oh, you guys just think I'm funny, so here I go. And I get to have a good set. That wouldn't be possible without all the bullshit that I put up with and put myself through the Village Idiot. Because like, it can be such a battle to get the laughs there that like sometimes I feel like it makes you better when you get to go do it at like a professional environment. You know, not that it's easier, but it's easier to swim in. Like I can get into a groove when I'm in like a really like a normal stand-up fun environment. Whereas like I feel like sometimes at Village Idiot, I'm fighting for my life, especially because I do it every week. Like guys like you or other people that come on the show, people are stoked to see. They don't see you all. We have a lot of recurring people and stuff. So every week I'm going out and doing my, they know me. I'm there every week. And it's like, how do I keep it fresh for the audience? Like I can't do my stuff that works every week because they know all of my jokes. A lot of these people have seen me a bazillion times. So it's like, that's part of it too. It's like, how do you just put yourself through the ringer, man. Do you find that you feel like you have to kill every single Wednesday at your show? No, in fact, I always say lately, in the beginning, I used to want to kill all the time. Like I used to be like, I'm not going to bomb my own show, man. Like I would always do my tightest stuff because I didn't want people to, my worst fear is people would be like, these guys, Village Idiots, like they have a popular show, but they can't do stand up. Like they're fake, you know what I mean, or whatever. So in the beginning, but now I don't give a shit. Like I'll try new stuff I've never said before at the Village Idiot. I'll bomb all the time at the Village Idiot. I do not care because when I get an opportunity to do something at the stand or do something at another show that I really respect, like that's when I'll bring my A game. Like the Village Idiot is for me to mess around. You know, we have a great show. You'll see a good show. We book great comics. You want to see Brendan Sagalow? You want to see Mark Normand? You want to see like we book great people. So enjoy them. But I'm gonna come on and try and I don't care anymore. I'll just bomb because that helps me get so much better, so much faster. I'm doing this year specifically. I've been doing a lot of weird new stuff, even like new stuff, like on like just new ways of presenting information, like my jokes and stuff like that. I'm always trying different things. That's like now become like where I experiment. What are you looking forward to the most over the next few months? I guess throughout the summer, because that's when I guess comedy shows really do get hot and people want to be out and laughing and drinking all the time. Well, what do I look forward to the next few months? Yeah, career-wise for you. Career-wise, okay, so, well, for Village Idiot. We are going to expand to doing road shows. So it's like we do a weekly Monday at the Mayfly, a weekly Wednesday at the Juke Bar, and we'll always do that for the rest of our lives. And then we want to take the show on the road, so like go to like Lancaster, Pennsylvania on like a Saturday night and just do a show there. Or like so we're planning a bunch of those types of shows this summer, so that'll happen because I want to get some experience on the road. And over the next few months, I'd like to have what you just described, like a really tight 15 to 20 minute set that I do places that I'm happy with that people can relate to. And I'd like to, I don't know, for me, it's all about the material. Like, I'm not looking to like be a famous comedian or blow up on, people always say to me, you don't post any clips. It's like, I'll post clips when I think there's something worth showcasing is kind of how I feel about it. I'm just not ready. And I'm really hard on myself in that regard. And I think by the end of the summer, I hope that I'm like
not in this place where I'm like, it's like, I'd like to have stuff that I am proud of all my jokes. And like, I think I'm maybe being a little bit nutty in what I'm saying right now and like overcritical about certain things. But by the end of the summer, I'd like to Village to be even more poppin'. I'd like my material to be a little ironed out a little bit more and less philosophical. And I'd like to be thinking about ways that I could get more time in clubs, because I don't do much time in clubs. Like I do a lot of bar shows. I do our own show. I do whatever crazy show behind a dumpster that people will book me on. I do club spots when they're offered to me, which is very rarely, but I'd like to position myself in a more professional environment, I would say.
Well, I think the trajectory that you're going on, man, it sounds great, dude. I mean, you lost fucking 80 pounds, right? That's
40.
Anyway, that's step one, man. I mean, that's some of the hardest thing people could do. It's control what they eat.
Yeah.
I'm sure your career is going to keep going in a trajectory that is upwards, man. And Andrew, seriously, thank you so much for coming on the Ted Jones World podcast.
You're an absolute animal, man. I love you, dude. I'm glad I ran into you that day.
Me too, dude. This was super fun. And Andrew, I think we first met at like an open mic, probably at the Stand years ago. I don't know if you remember. It was with like Daniel Janine.
I do remember.
Something like that.
I remember meeting you and then not talking to you for a while. And I follow your stuff on your Ted Jones World and all that stuff. I think I've always looked at that stuff. I thought it was cool. So
amazing, dude.
yeah,
Thank you so much. So we'll see Andrew May 10th, 7 p.m. at the Stand. And if you guys want to check out the Juke Bar, check that out any Wednesday. And follow your Instagram, man.
But specifically May 11th, follow for Ted Jones. Yes. And we're at the Village Idiot on Instagram. Follow us, weekly shows every Wednesday and every Monday at the Mayfly. Check us out.
And your Instagram account, shout it out.
Oh, my Instagram account is at Instaginsberg, Ginsberg.
Beautiful. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See you soon. Thank you.